Welcome to Real Talk, Real Estate Discussions with Andrew Kirsch. In each episode, Andrew interviews industry leaders. We'll hear their real-time opinions on today's market, their background and unique career highlights, and guidance for newcomers into the industry. You can find this show at scholarkirsch.com and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Now here's the host of Real Talk, Andrew Kirsch.
Episode 34 of Real Talk. Well, it's the official start of the fourth quarter now. Now that we're in October, we'll see if we have the fourth quarter pickup in transactions like we typically do. But this is not a typical year. However, at the end of the third quarter, we had several closings. Industrial in Texas, multi in California, office in California, office in Indiana. And some new deals that we just got put under contract, several multifamily deals and a retail deal. So there's still activity. Industrial is still strong. There's now some softness in multi where people are transacting. I don't think it's going to be a crazy year end like we typically have, but things are opening up a bit. This week on Real Talk, I am so proud and excited to have my good friend Gidi Cohen, founder of CGI Plus, come on to the show. We have a really candid, open conversation about him, his background, his upbringing, his company, his views on the market, his views of the workplace. It's really a great conversation that I had with Gidi that I hope you will enjoy.
All right, welcome to another edition of Real Talk. We're doing something a little different. We're on location, 5 floors above where Scholar Kirsch resides. I am in the offices of Gidi Cohen, CGI Plus. Gidi, thanks for having me here and thanks for coming on to Real Talk.
Thank you for having me on the Real Talk.
This is a real honor. Thinking about you coming onto the podcast and thinking about, us and our friendship and working together, I think you have been my longest standing client for at least well over 15 years. And to see how much we've grown as people, you've grown as a company, I've grown as a law firm. It's just great just being here and talking to you. So thank you.
Thank you. And I got to say that I enjoying our friendship, especially with you and Courtney and the kids. It means a lot to me. And I think it's nice to see you growing up. Business is business, but on a personal level, it's nice to see how far you and Courtney become over the last 15 years. And, I don't know if you remember, but when you worked for, what was that,
Raines
Feldman. You had a moment of like, am I going alone? Am I going single? Am I going to do it on my own? And I'm like, go, go, go. So obviously fortune favored the Braves, and this is where you are today. So I'm very proud of you.
I love it. And another first on Real Talk is we're emulating Bill Maher and his Club Random with a little bit of a beverage here. So appreciate that. L'chaim. So first, tell our audience, because I want to talk about personal things and your growth, and I'm sure my audience could tell from the accent that you're not American, that you're Israeli.
Really?
Can you? Maybe not. There. You get a little American twang there. But first, tell our audience, what is CGI Plus?
We're a private equity real estate investment firm. We're focusing on multifamily. When we're dabbling in some extended stay. And for the most part, we're doing either a ground up or a value add. We're trying to be super selective on the type of asset we are buying. I like to think of real estate as a long term. So we always, everything that we buy, we build, we're trying to think about at least we're owning it for 10 years and more. We're not much of a transactional office. We're more of a legacy assets and hand pick, cherry pick type of deals. We don't want to do, we're not a volume shop. We have a lot of respect for the volume shops, but we're not a volume shop. And we like that boutique family style team type of an operation.
Mhm. And so,
Very personal.
yeah. And so where are you guys transacting?
Beside California, we have in the Southeast, Florida, Atlanta. We've done some development project in New York. We've done about 7 ground up development project for sale in New York. We had some good experiences, some bad experiences. We've learned a lot, and we decided New York is probably not that place for us. So we're focusing on a sandbox that we're comfortable with. We have a shop in the Southeast. We have 2 acquisition guys in Atlanta, and here in California.
And so give a sense of the size of deals, vintage, just a little more perspective on the types of properties that you're attracted to.
Size of deals, we would like to be a minimum of $20 million equity check, so between $20 to $50 million equity check. So we want to fly slightly under the institution when it comes to the buying. Vintage, we bought some 1920 in LA, so I wouldn't go that we're not a vintage oriented kind of a company, but we do like to buy a story. So if you have a good story in a 1920, like Villa Carlota, we'll buy it. We looked at 1917 Upland, we will buy it if the story is good. So I don't think that we're driven necessarily by vintage.
Do you remember the first deal we worked on?
Of course, Renaissance Walk.
Even before that.
Isn't it we did the deal in Brawley?
Brawley.
Yes, we bought a note in Brawley, California.
Brawley,
2009.
California.
2009.
That was it. Yes.
That was Tony Azzi was the broker, and Sam Karp was the note owner, and I think that IDB.
Yes, I think it was IDB.
IDB was the lender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you bought the note.
We bought the note, and we flipped the property 6 months later.
Yeah.
Less than 6 months because we had to pay that prepayment fees.
Correct. I remember. Let's see, 2009. I've been a lawyer for almost 10 years. Was working purely in institutional law firms up until that point, and I had never met anyone like you up until that point, right? And even since then, I have not met anyone like you. You are definitely a breath of fresh air to transact with, and I'm not just saying it as being on your side. I feel like the counterparties that you transact with feel like it's a breath of fresh air, that there's something about your style that is refreshing. It's not confrontational. It's matter of fact. It's never personal, but you are the most direct person I know, but in a non-personal way. Do I have you correct?
Your perception is probably what works. So if this is how you perceive me, so that would be correct for you. I like people. Like at the end of the day, we work with people. Yes, we transact with products, but at the end of the day, we work with people, and I really enjoy people. And I don't know if it's the Israeli in me or I don't know what it is in me, but it's just better to be totally transparent. And once you're totally transparent and you put it out there, it's like in today's world, everybody's using nice words like vulnerability and being open and all that kind of nice words. For me, you just say what you think, you do what you say what you do. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work for the 2 people, it's okay. And if it works, it's great. So I always like to meet my buyer or seller, always taking meetings. I really enjoy people, and I'm learning a lot. So that's maybe what you're seeing. I don't know about the rest of it. I don't know if it's direct or not direct or non-confrontational, because I think I can be all of the above. I prefer not to be confronted, but if I am, it's fine. I mean, it's not the end of the world. But for the most part, I would like to conduct myself with good intentions. And the good intention is that, just deliver what you said. It's all good.
Well, it's like the old saying is, when you're dealing with someone from LA, they'll talk about you, but behind your back. If you're dealing with a New Yorker, they'll talk about you, but to your face. And I feel like in dealing with you and seeing how you deal with counterparties, you're just ultimately direct and candid, but in a civil, professional, non-attacking way. And it, at least from my perspective, it has proved to be in a very, not a strategy, because it is who you are, but it's a very successful way to conduct ourselves.
I tell my kids, I'm a very, very proud father. The most important thing for me is the stuff that I'm most proud of is my kids. Be authentic and be yourself. It doesn't matter if you show weakness, if you show strength. It's okay. We all have weaknesses. We all have issues. We all have insecurities. Just be authentic. And when you sit with somebody on the other side that you feel they're not authentic, that's okay. It's not my place to change anybody. But if it comes to the deal and I feel like he's trying to, or they trying, whatever that person is, try, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but smoking mirrors on playing games. So I always said, can we cut the shit?
Yeah.
Can we just do it?
All right. So let's take you back to your upbringing. You grew up in Israel.
I grew up in Israel. I grew up as a farmer in the large. We had a really big ranch. In Israeli standards, like 2,000 cattle and agriculture. So
you were like Kevin Costner in Yellowstone.
I'm not sure about that. The work habits, yes. I'm not sure about the other side. I mean, it's pretty clean, very innocent. So I grew up really, really close to the land. So there is something very grounding about this kind of an upbringing. And I think this is what we probably people see when it comes to authentic, because you just kind of like, you take it as the way it is, and it's just easier to communicate. But I grew up waking up at 4:00 in the morning, work until 7:30, come home, change, go to school, and then come back from school. It's 3:00 and it's super hot where I grew up, so you take a nap until 5, and then you go to field again until 7:00 at night.
What part of Israel?
North of Israel, like next to the Sea of Golan Heights, next to the Kinneret. And I really, really enjoyed working from a very young age. I never had an issue with waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go to work. And also, I think when you grow and you work in a farm, there is something, you're learning a lot about life. You know, there is, I don't know, in the Jewish holidays, there is Shavuot. And they said, when you plant the seeds, you cry. And when you harvest, you laugh. And there is something about it, to plant the seeds, to see things grow, or to see the calf of the cows, and you see them grow, and then you harvest, and you enjoy that different type of, you cry then from fear of what's going to happen, and then you cry when you harvest because of the joy. So there is something very human about it that I really enjoyed. And it was basic, middle to upper class. My mom was very academic. So we had all this kind of some of a European flavor in the house from it. But I was there until I was 18.
And then, I mean, when you were a kid, did you have any aspirations of being in the real estate business, moving to the United States, having a corner office in Century City? I mean, was that even a thought?
You know, no, nothing to do with real estate. Nothing to do with businessmen. There is a few things that I always knew, and I even tell my kids. I knew that I'm probably not going to be a good employee to anybody. So I knew that I have to run my own shop. That was from
Have you ever been an employee?
Maybe for a year or two.
Okay.
When I just got here.
Yeah.
But I'm just not good that way. I kind of like to create my own world, my own destination.
I don't want this to be an oversimplification or a stereotype. Is that you specifically, or would you say that's Israelis in general?
I don't know. I don't know if to answer that. I don't know. But I never really thought about it that way.
Okay. Because I just see a commonality in at least the Israelis that are in LA in real estate. They have that same entrepreneurial spirit.
I don't know if it's an Israeli versus foreigners. I think immigrant for the most part needs to create your own destiny because you have no other choice.
Yeah.
So, but if you look at Israel, I mean, I don't know what's the percentage of employees versus none. So I don't know if it's an Israeli or it's an immigrant thing. I mean, I know a lot of Asian, a lot of South America, and then self-employed.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
What tell me, because obviously in Israel you have to participate in the army, unlike here. And so what was that like?
The army, or the decision to go to the army?
Well, is there a decision to even go into the army?
There is a decision of where to go.
Of which
unit you can select.
So which unit did you select?
I was the equivalent to American Navy SEAL in Israel. They're calling it Shayet Shloshes.
Okay.
Which is frogmen.
And how did you decide? So Navy SEALs, I mean, here are considered, the best of the best.
I grew up in the village and in the area. So in Israel, you have kibbutz, you have moshav, which is similar to here, Ventura County, and you have different kind of agriculture areas, and then there is the big city. And it was very well known that people from the kibbutz and the moshav are kind of a salt of the earth, and those are usually the people who are going to a special forces units, different type, if it's whatever, Air Force, Green Beret, SEALs, equivalent to whatever we have here. So it was in part of our DNA. That's what we need to do for our country. That means that you're born in that moshav, that everybody around you saying that you have to get yourself out of the comfort zone because you put the love of the country first. So there was no question that I had to go internally, that's how I felt, to something that is bigger than me. Now, why SEAL? It's ironic because I had a lot of incidents in my life that I was literally sitting and reading. Nobody from my moshav went to the SEAL because we didn't grow by the water. The moshav was inland. So nobody went to the SEALs. We had a lot of people, Seyret Matkal, which is like Green Beret. We had a couple of Air Force guys, but nobody went to the SEALs. And I was reading an article about how they're going in the age of 17 and they pre-select you because you're signing at 18. And when I read it, I was like, that sounds like a real hell of a challenge. And that sounds like a place that I can really bring some values. So I remember the time I was there with my first girlfriend. I was 16. We were sitting on a couch and I'm reading it. And I said, I think I'm going to do that. And she was like, sure you do. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And that was it. That's it. So it was a joke because in the 18 months of training, you work hard, but I worked hard in a farm. It's not the same, but you're kind of toughing it up in a farm.
You don't have anyone trying to kill you in a farm.
Well, you don't know my stepdad, but not killing you, but it's like go.
Yeah.
So every time when it was a little bit tough, I said, guys, it's okay. You don't want to go back to the farm. It's better here.
Yeah.
So that was always my internal joke in the team. So yeah, that was the motivation. And then as you go, you see the type of people around you. And I was super lucky with it just great guys. And you're learning brotherhood, you're learning commitment, you're learning what it means of watching each other's back. You're learning to be authentic. There is something called a fuck up lineup. So during the day and training, the officers, whoever runs it, is every few minutes said, you know what, your shoelace open, right as a fuck up. You were supposed to touch the post, you didn't touch it, there's another fuck up. And at 11 o'clock at night, before everybody goes to sleep, you have a lineup, and each one of us has to say how many fuck ups he had that day. And every fuck up is a mile. The problem is that if you lie and you catch and lie, you're being dismissed automatic.
So it's like you are self identifying your fuck ups.
Yes.
You're not ratting anyone else out.
No, it's you and you only.
Uh-huh.
And it's about teaching integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's kind of a catch-22 because during the day, you're tired. It's not like you have a notepad. Hold on a second.
Right.
I'll have my assistant writing how many fucks I have. So you run. It's like, hey, Gidi, 1. It's like, this is how it really goes. It's like, Gidi, write it up, 1. Now, at the end of the day, you're tired. You're sweating it. You don't know what's going on. It's like, how the heck would I know how many fuck-ups I have? So you always add 1 or 2. But what people don't know that every fuck-up, it's a 1-mile run.
Right.
And it's not just 1-mile run, it's with a full gear, which is about 40 kilo.
Later that, like at the end of the day?
At the end of the training.
Oh.
I used to have a lot of fuck ups, and I'm not a good runner. So every night at the end of 11 p.m., when everybody goes to sleep, everybody's supposed to, you have to run. So I usually run between 5 to 10 miles
Jesus.
every night. And I used to add 2 more just in case I missed one.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that gets you in shape. But I'll tell you what it teaches you. And this is why they're doing it. Because when you go on missions and you come back, you need to give what you call a case study. What went wrong? There is no what went right. It's what went wrong. And it's all about critiquing it. So I'm looking today on how we raise kids. It's like we're playing soccer, and if somebody got hurt, everybody's on their knees and they're waiting. And I'm like, seriously? It's like, what are you doing? So it teaches you to be super self-aware of where you're wrong. And it teaches you how to critique yourself and understand that criticism, it doesn't necessarily have to degrade you. It makes you better. And it also teaches you to be able to say, listen, my bad. It's one of the biggest issues that we have in the US society, because a lot of us would not admit that it's my bad. Now, my bad, it doesn't mean you're wrong for the rest of your life. It means today it's your bad, tomorrow it's a new day. There is a lot of growth. And maybe that goes back to what we talked originally about how I conduct yourself, because it teaches you integrity and teaches you to be transparent. It teaches you to be responsible and have an ownership of what you do. So there's so many things in character. It teaches you to work hard. It teaches you to be a team player. It teaches you all those values that carried you to the rest of your life. So you start in the farm, and then it goes to the units. And by the time you're done with that, it just programs in your head that way. You can see a person and not understanding that you got to treat that person with respect, but still have your integrity up.
So it sounds like things that you've learned in the Navy SEAL version in Israel, you're using it maybe even subconsciously every day.
It's so when I'm hearing you saying it, I don't see using it. It's just of who you are.
It's who you are. Yeah.
It's like an athlete here, or somebody that went to any kind of super school that study, whatever. So it's just built to who you are. I don't wake up in the morning and think I gotta be that person. This is how you're wired.
Now, I know, if it's okay to bring this up, that you have your employees read a document or acknowledge a piece of paper of what it's like to work for an Israeli.
Yes, that's true. So there was a study that was done between the different societies around the world, how every culture run and operate. In the US, when you ask somebody how you're doing, he said, thank you, I'm doing great. If you ask in Israel how you're doing, he will tell you how he's doing. And sometimes we don't do great. So now I can't help it. I've been more in America than in Israel, but until my 23 years of my life, which identify your character, it was in Israel. So for me, when I go in the office and I say somebody, how you doing? I really mean to ask them how they're doing. It's not just like brushing it by the hallway.
Yeah.
So that's one, but it's another thing is if I come in and I say somebody, you know what, you could have done that better. We can do it this way. The intention is not negative.
Right.
The delivery, it's different because it's a different culture. But the intentions are never to make anybody feel bad or degrading or any of it.
I think my favorite one is just because my voice is louder, it doesn't mean I'm yelling at you or something.
Yeah, we're very direct. we get excited.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see a bunch of Israelis sitting in the room, you think that we're screaming at each other. We don't. We're excited, passionate, kind of. Listen, there is good or bad about every culture, and I'm sure we Israeli we have a fair share of negative just as much as we have great things or positive. But we sit down in the room and that's what we are. We're louder a little bit and we're passionate and we hug. It's like kissing. We kiss each other twice on the cheek. If you're a friend to the Holland, the Dutch people kissing 3 times. The Americans will do a handshake, which is, I'm not by any means, we're sitting here with the American flag.
I was going to mention that. So, and we don't have to talk about Israeli-U.S. differences, and I want to get into more real estate, but I noticed one of the few things in your office that's framed, and I do see an Israeli flag over there, but is the American flag. Why do you have the American flag so prominent in your office?
I'm America's biggest fan on all aspects, even the stuff that they're not as positive. I think America is not just because of the opportunity that he gave me personally. I think America is just amazing country for so many reasons. But the biggest reason for me, it's a sense of pride that the American have in America, the patriotism, the hard work, they keep wanting to be the best all the time, the drive. And for me, I want to be part of it. And I want to also, I was very fortunate coming here and able to achieve what I achieved. And it's not just because I am who I am. I think it's also because I had the platform here. America gave me the platform to be able to express myself. And the definition of sky is the limit is in America. And it's sitting across of my desk. And I want to reminding myself every single day that, yes, I may be of Israeli descent, but I am in America.
Is this flag historically significant? Other than it being an American flag, I could tell that it's an older flag. What is this flag?
We bought it with some, without mentioning any names, we had some good artist that was carrying it, and I find it, and it's very vintage.
Yeah.
And yes.
No, that's great. Do you think you could have built CGI Plus I know you could have built it in Israel. Would you have been as successful? Like what is it in the United States that's different than Israel? I've been to Israel, obviously not as much as you. I've been there multiple times. There's many Americans who want to move to Israel. It's a vibrant economy, tech economy. Why are you doing it here and not in Israel?
First, scale. Israel, it's 8 million people.
Yeah.
It's the size of California.
You mean, right. California is 30 million people.
No, as far as landscape. As far as geographically.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't have the scale. So every time when I hear people going from here to Israel to build a business, I'm like, it's only 8 million customers. Right. It doesn't matter how you slice it. I mean, there is a cap. Mm-hmm. This is like why we're in the number one startup country, because it's so brainy out there and it's so advanced in thinking, but you can't scale those ideas. So if I'll be successful in Israel, first, we can get into the philosophical conversation of what success means, because for me, success is not just about money. So if I'll be successful to build my family and have a great family in Israel and all this, absolutely, no question about it. If I'll be able to be as the same success as far as material and financially, I don't know. I mean, I would like to think that I'll be doing well everywhere I go, just because of I have that grit and hardworking. But I definitely think that America gives you a better chance to be successful than a lot of other countries. Mm-hmm. It's 360 million, it's a huge country, land of opportunities, rules and regulations are very, as much as we always complain here, still a very business friendly. Go and work, I'm building a house in Italy. Go and work and build a house in Italy. It's a nightmare. I mean, and we think here there is an issue. So depends on how you see it.
Yeah. All right. So obviously this podcast is called Real Talk, and it's real estate discussions. So
that's what the Real Talk is about.
Yes.
I thought it's the Real Talk.
Oh, well, we can have.
I thought it's Real Talk.
It is real for you. It's Real Talk, or with you. We could go on for hours. I want to be mindful of and respectful for your time. Let's get into real estate. Mm-hmm. Okay. Obviously, you didn't end up with this fantastic company with thousands of units throughout the United States. Tell my audience, how did you start? What were the beginnings of Gidi Cohen here in the U.S. and trying to make it into the real estate business?
So I came here like every Israeli, and the first year, I stumbled a couple of jobs without getting into it. And then somebody introduced me to an Israeli guy that was looking for a construction supervisor for single family homes. That was 1992. I kind of learned the trades a little bit. And then we had the 94 earthquake. If you remember, we had a lot of condemned building in San Fernando Valley. And somehow we stumbled of Bank of America was looking to get a proposal on 24 units building on Woodman Avenue.
Yeah.
Across the street from the Lebanese restaurant.
Okay.
I remember it. And the building was condemned. We had to do retrofitting. And I got friendly with the asset manager, and he came to me to ask to get proposal for it. And he said, "Why didn't you buy the building?" And I was like, "What do you mean buy the building?" He said, "We're selling it for 20,000 units." Now, I'm 25 years old. Real estate was not something that I went to school for or anything. So I was like, buy the building? Hold that thought. There was an Israeli guy that was teaching in UCLA by Jacob Siegel.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Amazing guy.
Yeah.
Just like amazing guy. I happen to know Jacob Siegel. So I called Jacob Siegel and I said, "Listen, I need a crash course in real estate. I don't know what I'm talking about."
You knew him from your days in Israel? Or
No, I'm from
just
here.
in the
From
US?
here.
Okay.
So I said, "Can I hire you private? I don't want to go to UCLA classes. Can I just hire you
Nor
privately?"
could you probably get in.
Probably I could not get in either. So I said, can I hire you to give me private lessons and anything to do in real estate? He said, "What do you got?" I said, "This guy wants me to buy the building." And building was condemned, as I said. I remember it was 20,000 a unit. It was $200,000 or something. And I'm like, "You know what?" I told the guy, "We're buying it, but I don't have the money, so you'll have to finance it for me." He said, "Let me see if we can get financing." Bank of America financed that things. I was giving 30% or 20% loan. I scrubbed a little bit, a couple of shekels, and I got it together, and I bought that building. Then he said, "There is another building on Morrow Park, also 24 units. Would you want to buy it?" I said, so I didn't have any money. I went to Jacob Siegel. I said, "Well, why don't you syndicate? Call your friends and family." So I called the friends and family. At that time, there was another Israeli guy that was a broker, so he kind of taught me the trades. And I remember closing on two buildings, and I said, "Okay, we need to manage." The first tenant came in, and he called my office back then. He said, "May I speak to Gidi Cohen?" I said, "I'm your tenant." And I said, "How can I help you?" He said, "The doorbell doesn't work." I said, "Hold the thought." I put him on hold. I called the other guy, the broker, and I said, "Didn't you say you're doing property management?" He said, "Yes." So you have a call. And I'm like, "I'm not fixing doorbell." So
What did you think you were doing when you
I had no clue.
Yeah.
I was 25 years old.
Do you remember the interest rates on those loans?
I remember that I used to give a second trust deed
Uh-huh.
for construction at 18%. So this is where we are going today, and this is why it's some of the people.
Yeah.
I don't remember what was the first.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, it was in a 7, 6, 7, 8. It ran that number, just like with same environment that we are today.
Yeah.
But I remember doing a lot of construction and home improvement, and if you have a $40,000 job, people can pay only 15. I said, "No problem, I'll do a second position." So I used to get the cost out and give a second position. What I forgot to mention is that the company that I worked for, it became a really close friend of mine, Israeli guy. And after the earthquake, his wife said that she's moving out of California, she's going back to Israel. So he sold me that company. So I didn't have the cash. It was making installment. And so I bought that company in the construction. And I know, as far as the interest rate. And so back then, I know that second trust deeds went from 15 to 22, and we collect.
And so from there, how did you progress?
So from there, I started to, obviously through Jacob Siegel, which was becoming good friends. So I started doing some fixer-uppers in a single family home in South Central. I was doing a lot of construction. So I was running in 3 parallels. We had multifamily, single family, construction for client, or fixer-uppers. And then in 1999, I was able to sell those 20,000 a door for 90 to 100. And all of a sudden I said, "Holy shit, that's how you make money in real estate." I was 29, 28, and I understood the real estate. Okay, now I went deeper with Jacob Siegel, and I started learning 1031 exchange and how you're changing it, and the rest was history. So I knew I have to do 2 things. There is no cash flow in development or in real estate. It's very hard to get the amount of cash. So I ran a construction company parallel to real estate company.
To just bring in monthly income, you're saying.
Correct.
Was the construction
Correct.
company.
You don't, it's very hard to get the amount of, when you just started, the cash flow that you need from real estate to cover your lifestyle.
I talk to people all the time about utilizing the syndication model for investors versus the institutional model, joint ventures, someone writing a check of 95% of the equity. is there a preference? Do you have a preference of either model? Because I know you've done both.
Yes, I have preference. I think first has a lot to do with what type of shop you are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a fee shop, it's one thing. If you're a transactional shop, it's another thing. But if you are a long-term legacy asset, it's another thing. I always believe to buy the asset and not sell. If it was up to me, I would. I also think that IRR is not a good indication for real estate. I also think there is a conflict of interest with opening a fund with real estate. I think putting a 5 years window on real estate with IRR, it's like you're trading water, because that's not how you should be.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should buy the assets, manage it right, create whatever value you have, refinance it as the American way is buy, borrow, die.
Yeah.
And then if you get an amazing price and you can get 5 or 7 years in advance money, sell it. Otherwise, why? I'll take cash flow any day of the week versus appreciation.
Yeah.
And
so obviously these funds that are large institutional funds that are all here in Century City, they have 7-10 year investment horizons where they have to sell after that time period because they have a fund life. So
and they also have an IRR criteria.
Right.
If I'm refinancing it, why do I need to sell it?
Well, but how are you able to do larger deals, or do you just expand your syndication network?
So by now, the shop is big enough to be able to do all those 3 buckets.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a bucket for institution, we have a bucket for like the family offices or long-term hold with a different structure, and then we have a bucket for development. So when you get to these things, so first the offices grew, have more people. So yes, we're enjoying some of the fees. But if you're asking my personal favorite, my personal taste to it, I would prefer to buy and hold.
What was the transaction or moment in your career? And maybe it's when you sold the buildings on Woodman, but when was it where you were like, you know what? I've made it. I can now, I now know that this is not just a job. This is my career. I can provide for my family in a really comfortable way.
So 2 things. You're asking 2 things. When did I decide I've made it? And then it's my job. Until now, I don't think I've made it.
Come on now, Gidi.
In my head, that's how it is, because I don't know what's made it is. I'm happy. I'm super happy with what I accomplished. I don't look at the empty glass. I'm very proud of what it is. But I'm a guy that's always going to climb the next ridge. So for me, you get to a certain point, it's like, okay, what's next?
There's something else to climb.
Exactly. So and you know what? I like keeping it this way because it keeps me dry. It keeps the drive. It keeps me hungry. So I'm still very hungry. I'm still very driven. Still very passionate. So that's one. But for me, at 2001, I bought a piece of land on a street called Huston, in between Magnolia and Lancashire.
Okay, in the valley.
In the valley. And it was a CRA project, and it was a historical project. I remember buying 12 bungalows. Mm-hmm. And when I look at those bungalows, CRA came and says historical. Everybody said historical. I look at it and say, it cannot be historical. They have different windows. They have different, something is up here that cannot be historical. I said, I'm buying it for $1.5 million. I used that with the buyer because the seller thought it's historical, which I was taking a chance. And I back then, when you have nothing to lose, you can take more risk. And I was, by right, if you can demolish those bungalows, you can build 35 units. I was able to prove that it's not historical, and I was able to get CRA to allow me to build 65 units. So I bought the land for $1.5 million. I put another $500,000 in entitlement. And then a builder came to me and said, I'll give you $9 million. I was like, I'm out.
And yet you were taught, 2 minutes ago, you said, don't ever sell.
That's correct. $7 million back then, for me only, not syndication with my own money.
Sure.
It was a significant amount of money at that time that I'm like, yes. Just to refresh it, when I say note sale, it's like, it's not black and white. It's like, well, listen, we're not married to any of the properties. If there is enough profits that you sell, but there's a concept you need to buy and hold.
And you're talking about a a 65 unit project, and now you're doing projects that are almost 10 times that, 500 unit.
Yes.
Right. So what are the differences and challenges of building a 50, 60 unit building versus one that's 10 times that?
Before the challenges, it's a different mindset. When you build 525 units, you're building a community. And beside the business, at least me, I don't know about others. And by the way, I'm not an expert on to try to preach what everybody else should do. I'm just saying how I operate.
Yeah.
I look at it as I'm creating a community. I'm creating homes for people. I'm creating space for people to spend a lot of time. Different amenity, different lifestyles. So you're talking about the project we're doing in Torrance, 525 units. For me, I want to bring the urban, quote unquote, vibration and style and vibe that you can build here in LA to the suburb. Because I believe that everybody should enjoy the same amenities. Everybody should enjoy the same lifestyle. The fact that you live in Torrance, it doesn't mean you should not be able to enjoy the same finishes, the same style. And so for me, I enjoy it. I really like to sit down with the architect, and my team will tell you, I sit down on every unit style, and every unit mix, and put together thoughts about how this thing should work. So there is a difference. When you build the smallest one, you're making less impact on other people. So that's from the consumer point of view. For the business point of view, you're dealing with a different caliber of contractors. You're dealing with a different calibers of architects. So your knowledge and your depth of understanding the industry has to be different. It's a different conversation. It's the difference in renovation between doing a $10,000 bathroom remodeling versus building a $50 million home. It's just a different depth of knowledge that you have to pull from.
So is there now a minimum deal size that you must have before you look at a deal?
There is personal and there is business. On the business level, because we have the size of the company, so to do a transaction of 50 units or 30 units, not because it's too small. It's an opportunity cost.
Right.
It takes the same amount of time to put together 30 units.
Yep, I say that all the time.
Yeah. So that's the only reason. It's not because it's beneath us or anything like that. It's just like, no, it's something that we want to put our time into.
Yeah.
So we try not to do anything in the city less than 100, but out of the city less than 200.
Yeah.
So that's the difference for me, at least. On the personal, I love the property. I buy it. It can be $1. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like if I have my own personal books on top of the company. So if I see a site that I'm really liking, and I feel it's something I want to put in my trust and for my kids, I'm like, yeah, let's buy.
So God, we could talk for hours here, and I definitely want to be respectful of your time. Last two more substantive questions, and then we're going into our lightning round. You know what our lightning round is?
No.
Like quick answers to our questions, so it's like lightning quick. All right. But I feel like these last two questions are going to require a little more in depth. You've been through several cycles. You started your business in a down market in 94 or even earlier in the early 90s recession. There was 9/11, then the 08 recession, and now we're today. What are the differences, in your opinion, of what we're seeing today versus those other time periods?
It's funny because the outcome is the same. The process is different. In 2008, you couldn't find lending. Now you can find lending, but it's expensive. So in 2008, you also had issue with jobs and layoffs and on all kind of things. Here now we have a strong job market. I mean, there is a reason why they're calling it a rich man recession right now. The workforce right now don't feel that recession the way the wealthier people feeling it. They're targeting it differently. I always say that the solution for every recession is the same from a real estate point of view. It's leverage, it's the amount of leverage that you have, and it's the amount of liquidity that you have, and it's sustaining power. So the medicine to every recession is the same. And I mean, you have a lot of people here that I'm talking within the multifamily, because obviously the offices, it's a different story. It doesn't matter what was your leverage, you cannot sustain it anymore. So within the multifamily, I mean, for 2008, if you were able to write it out, you came out strong. In the 90s, if you're able to write it out, you came out strong. So I feel that the medicine for the multifamily, if you can sustain it, eventually it will be okay. But I feel that in the multifamily, we kind of borrowed future money. Rent escalation was out of proportion in the last few years. So if you really bought that pill of appreciation that everybody else bought, I mean, there was an issue because it just didn't feel right. You can't predict that kind of rent escalation.
So in 2021, when rents were just skyrocketing, did you feel like at some point the music is going to stop and we got to protect our company and somehow we're not going to buy? Like, there are companies of clients of ours and peers of yours that, you know, went all in as late as 2022 in Phoenix and Vegas and other markets, and we see how they're hurting.
So a couple of things. First, we do have some pain within our company. Mm-hmm. So as much as I think I know it, there is some pain.
Sure.
I can tell you that we did not buy anything since July 2021.
You have not bought anything in over 2 years?
Yes.
Wow.
And I can tell you that without mentioning names, we had consultants, we had people coming, we had guests in our IC meetings, and they all said, you're going to lose your acquisition team. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't want to lose my acquisition team because I have a phenomenal team.
Yep.
But I would not buy against something that I feel that I should not. So one of the biggest arguments we had in IC meeting every Thursday was, they try to sell me on the rent escalation, but everybody else in the market is doing it. I said, guys, I respect everybody else and I might be wrong. I'm not comfortable with that kind of rent. I'm just not comfortable. I'm not buying it. So we did not buy any deals since 2021. And it was a lot of tough conversations.
Sometimes the best deals that you buy are the ones that you don't buy.
Yes, but listen, there are people, we have a lot of mutual friends that made money in 2022. So I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I just know that for me, it did not make sense. Something did not smell right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in 2006. I sold everything I owned. Everything I owned, because for me, I look at indication of what other people buy. And when I see what other people buy and I feel that it doesn't feel with my thesis, and I'm not saying that I'm always right. It's just, at the end of the day, you have to go with your belief system. If it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. You got to stick to your own belief system. So when I saw in 2006 that I feel like something is up, it doesn't feel right. There's something from the street, it doesn't feel right. So I said, sell it all and let's see what happened. And that's what happened. We took 2 years off. I didn't buy anything from 2006 until 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And we started buying again in 2009.
Wow.
I got lucky. I sold all that condos. I bought a lot of Burger King, all cash. And I said, I'll sit on it, see what happened. Obviously, it was a much smaller portfolio that we have now. So when I look at 2002, the mistake that I have done, I didn't sell enough. I should have sold more. Like my gut told me, don't buy. But somehow it didn't register to my brain telling me sell.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. But we did not buy anything since 2021.
So here, September of 2023, how have you positioned the company to transact and take advantage of what we may see in the next 12, 18, 24 months?
So in the Army, there is something that called the drawer plan.
The drawer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a plan that you put in the drawer.
Okay.
Now, I have an Israeli CFO and partner, Sion.
Yeah.
Fantastic guy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And him and I have a strategy that we always said, in the event of these things would happen, you take the defense, I take the offense. So we're splitting the company into half. Because when everybody in the offense, you lose opportunity. When everybody on the defense, you lose whatever you own. So that's what we do. So Sion did a fantastic job of hedging the offense. We still have some issues. They have a couple of deals that we're supposed to break ground. We're not going to break ground.
Yeah.
We're going to bleed. We're going to pay. We're going to do some capital calls. We're going to work it. But for the most part, 80% of the portfolio is solid. Now, how long? Who knows? I mean, we have interest rate locked for at least 4 to 5 years, so we're good with that with some of the project. But who knows how long these things? And I'm not going to be just sitting here telling you that I think I know. But one thing that we do see is we start seeing some really good assets to buy. So we just came back from road trips and road shows, and we're raising money, and we are spending, and everybody knows that most of the institutions sitting on the sideline for one reason or another. And we have high net worth individual. We say, listen, let's buy asset with a 10 years horizon, but let's get a really good trophy assets on the books. And that's what we're doing. So Andre Cerruti is a super talented guy, and Mark Cohen with our team, and Cody Walker, and they're all great guys in our acquisition team. And we have not bought anything. We're under contract for one deal now, but we're looking for good real estate and good opportunities.
Yeah. Well, there is one deal that you did do in the last 2 years.
Which is?
I was an investor in it.
Lazy Acre?
Lazy
When was
Acre.
that? When did we close it? Nope.
Oh, you did close it before then. You're right, because it was the middle of the COVID.
That's
and,
right. Nope. We closed it 3 years ago.
Yeah. I've never been to a grand opening of a supermarket before.
Neither do I.
We had a great time.
Neither do I.
We had a great time, and then a great closing dinner at the
Yeah.
Antennas
Yeah.
with our good friend Blake, and
Yeah.
we'll have to do more of that.
I would love that.
All right, last questions here. Quick answers to these questions, okay? Don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. Do you personally use Excel?
No.
So how do you evaluate a deal? Napkin, pencil?
I look at the Excel and I make my own decision.
Mhm.
The Excel for me is a storyteller.
Yeah.
I gotta tell this. I don't look at the Excel formula. I look at the Excel storytelling, and then I see if I buy it.
Yeah.
If I buy it, I can sell it.
Sure. What are the qualities that you look for when you are hiring someone?
Depends for which position. First, to be honest, today I don't do most of the hiring.
Okay.
But in a C-level position, we're looking for people that will have a similar DNA that we have, the similar values, and then they have to have the talent and the know-how of that trade. So they need to have some experience. But for me, for C-level, so you need to have at least 5 or 7 years experience. But most important things, I want to know that I like the person. Listen, it's not a big shop. So if you and I work together, we got to enjoy each other time. I don't care how talented you are. If you and I don't vibe for whatever reason, and I'm going to spend time with you, it's got to be fun.
How long does it take you to figure out if you can vibe with someone?
So I have a very long dating process before
you
I
do?
hire. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the first interview, which whatever you do, you meet. Then I'll do lunch. Then I'll do dinner. Then I'll go for a hike. I literally spend time with that person 3 or 4 times. I just want to kind of flip them like a burger to see what's going on. It's like,
flip them like a burger.
It's like I want to see, and I want. By the way, I'm hoping that they do the same thing for me, because they got to interview me as much as I interview them.
Yeah.
And whoever we hire, we hope that it's going to be long term. But we're all suffering from a high turnover. I mean, I suffer from a high turnover. Most of our developers, we're not like the easiest guy to get along with.
Yeah.
And we are very crazy and whatever we are. So you got to make sure that somebody understand that culture.
I know you're a world traveler.
Yes.
I know you've invited me on some of these trips, Marrakesh, and I see the books in your lobby, Brazil and Peru. Best place you've ever been to?
Morocco.
Hands down, huh?
Hands down, 25 times in my life. I'll go there.
25 times?
Yes.
You don't get sick of it. It's a small country.
I went to Morocco first time in my honeymoon, 1995, where nobody was going to Morocco.
Yeah.
Morocco is by far my first place. Second thing is Peru.
Peru. It's like everyone's going to Portugal right now.
Great country to go.
Yeah.
I'm more of a third world country kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yes, I do Europe and all this kind of stuff, but I enjoy that. The third one will be Japan.
Okay. I better take Courtney to Morocco.
Not without me.
I won't go.
No, you don't go to Morocco without me. We got to do it together.
I love it.
Yeah.
Last question.
Uh-huh.
What advice would you give a Gidi Cohen who's 25 years old, who's walking into your office and says, all right, how can I make it in the real estate industry, 25 years old?
Do it your way. It doesn't matter what everybody says. Do it your way, because we're all very unique and individual, and what works for you, it doesn't mean, yes, get advice from everybody you want to learn, but don't try to be somebody else. I'd rather be doing not as half successful as somebody else, but do it your way, because the joy that you're getting out of it and the fulfillment for do it your way, it's much greater to try to be somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And if your way is not perfect, it's fine. Nobody's perfect.
That was great words of advice. Gidi, we could go on forever. All I know is that for the 15 years that you've been in my life, it's been so impactful, not just for me, but my whole family. You are the only, I would say one of the only, if not the only person that when I say to Courtney, my wife, Gidi's invited us to go to dinner tonight, she'll say, let's get the babysitter, canceling whatever we do. We're not going to act American and need to have plans 4 months in advance. We're going spur of the moment. And so thank you for making me and Courtney be a little less American and more, think on our feet and just.
To say it back, I got to say, thank you for Courtney for two things. First, accepting me for being who I am. Not everybody does. And B, you're a real mensch. Just hands down real mensch. And I have so much respect and love for you for doing it. And Courtney just a doll. I mean, I love Courtney.
Well, thank you.
So, she's fantastic. So I'm just as grateful as you are.
Well, I appreciate it. Look, much success, even though you've had tons of success. I know you guys will continue to crush it. Thank you for coming on to the show. And
you're coming to my office. What are you talking about? Thank you for coming here.
I love it. I'll just stay here and drink more tequila. All right, man. Cheers. Thank you.
You've been listening to Real Talk, Real Estate Discussions with Andrew Kirsch. You can catch prior episodes at scholarkirsch.com and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, and for sharing the show with others.